be me. Be 11 at the time, deep in Louisiana, live on what used to be a large plantation. Family is pretty wealthy. One season we were struggling financially, first time I ever had to go hungry. One late night I hear a familiar sound, a slow rhythmic twang of a banjo far off. I get out of bed and look out of my window, see nothing but the empty yard, go downstairs to the kitchen and look out of the door, see a faint light out in the woods, sit there a few moments contemplating on what to do next. Eventually I build the courage to check it out. The woods are silent, the grasshoppers afraid, the already unsettling feeling in the air thickens as I approach the light. I stop as I turn past a tree. The tree reveals what looks like a strange, costumed man slowly playing an old, slightly withered banjo. His shoulders had plumes of black feathers that swayed with his movements. The song he played was strange and unfamiliar. Its melody wasn't random but almost alien sounding. As I came closer, his hands looked spindly and bony. As more of his frame is revealed, his whole body looks starved and dying. His fingernails now like talons as they pluck the strings. He wore a suit that looked like it was at one point highly valued, but now was decayed and rotting. His shoes were at one point fine leather, but now ripped and torn. What I originally thought was his bald head was in actuality some kind of helmet. Hesitant to come closer, I sit and watch as he plays for the trees, the source of the light being an oil lamp on the ground gently illuminating the area. As I stare in confusion, I shift slightly, causing a twig to snap and his head to turn. What I thought was a helmet was shown to be a large bird skull, its eye cavities dark and empty. Fear dominated me as I ran back home and hiding in my room. I am unsure of what I saw, and I'm curious if anyone can help me identify what I may have seen. Forgive any misspellings, as I'm typing this as best as I can while I sit in my bath trying to calm myself down. I live in rural Victoria and have a neighbor who is Indigenous. I will explain why I mention this later. Today I was helping her do her backyard because I have nothing better to do during lockdown. I am going to describe this as exact and directly as I can so that if it is medical, I will seek treatment. While working, I began to smell something exactly like copper, like when you get a blood nose and you can taste it in your mouth. It was that overwhelming. In the photo attached, not middle frame, but centered is a patch of exposed dirt. I took the image where I was at the time. Standing there, directly in front of me was a figure as tall as a human. However, it was completely void of tone and color and indescribable, similar to when something is in your peripherals, vague around the edges. I looked at its center frame and did not look where its face would have been. I looked at it only briefly, but am sure it had a human-like build. I was not scared. In the instant I was more so confused, and then I immediately felt compelled to look down and close my eyes. Then I realized how scared I was. I will admit that I was crying a little, and it had shaken me. I was still and could hear it walk past me and further into the shrub behind me. It took me some time to catch myself, and then I immediately left. I explained to my neighbor on the way out that I would come back in a bit to help her, and she clearly saw I had cried because my eyes were still red. I collected myself, came back, took the photo and kept working. I was not disturbed otherwise. I would like to clarify a number of explanations. Firstly, I am a veteran of the ADF. However, I did not see any combat and did not serve in the infantry, although I was in a combat role. Well, I'll share a couple my dad told me. He never actually called these fairy stories, but that's what they sound like to me. They're not as interesting as yours, but I loved hearing them growing up. I'll try to keep them short. So Dad grew up in the rural South. One night, there was supposed to be some type of big party in the next town. Big social event. Dad can't go. He's got work the next morning with my grandpa, who was a real hard ass and worked my dad ragged, but Dad is a young teenager at this point. He says forget the old man and decides he's going to go to the party anyway, so he waits till Grandpa's asleep and sneaks out. Best way to get there is a shortcut through the woods, otherwise he has to go around, which will take him over an hour out of his way. These woods have a lot of lore attached to them. BTW people say they're haunted, they're cursed, they're evil, etc. The coolest story is that the devil roams the woods at night. If you're out there after dark, he'll kinda mess with your head, make everything look unfamiliar, and get you lost. Then you'll be trapped there forever. Cue ghostly wails. Anyway, Dad thinks that's all a bunch of horseshit and just cuts through the woods, comes out the other side fine and heads to the party, enjoys himself catching up with some friends, dancing, flirting with some girls, etc. After a while he leaves. It's about midnight. He has to be up in a few hours, so he's in a hurry, cuts through the woods again. He's about halfway through when he feels his hair stand on end. He freezes, feeling seriously spooked, but not sure why. Then he sees a chain of lights moving between the trees off in the distance. Lights are kind of gently bouncing, like a bunch of people holding lanterns and walking in a single file. They pass by him, pretty close, one by one. He could reach out if he wanted to, but he's absolutely stock still, afraid that if he moves then whatever these lights are will hurt him. At some point, Dad realizes they're gone, but he doesn't remember watching them finish passing. Feels like he's been standing there in a daze or something. He looks around, sees he's alone, and bolts. Eventually arrives at home, sneaks back into the house, and falls asleep. Grandpa never even knew he was gone. I've told this story before, but for the sake of additional details and attention seeking, I guess I'll type it out again. When I was about 11, I went up to the family cabin to spend some time with my cousins, and we decided that it would be fun to go on an adventure into the woods. So we walk away from the main clearing and into adventure. It felt like we walked a while, but we probably only made it under a fourth of a mile. Soon into the venture we found an abandoned campfire. It was no doubt set up by someone trespassing. We're hardly ever up there, and it's easy just to wander on in from hiking. They probably didn't even know it was private property. Anyway, there's something wrapped in tinfoil in the center of the pit. I don't know what it was, or if anyone even opened it, as I started back towards camp soon after. By that time me and one other cousin had started to feel spooked about something. I think maybe we felt like we were being watched, but I could just be inventing that in retrospect. So me and another cousin started walking back. And then I look to my right and see something strange. It was behind a tree. I could say I saw a silhouette, but that'd be untrue. What I really saw was nothing. And I mean nothing, no monster or animal or anything that could be coherently described as a thing. It was like someone simply had erased a portion of reality, leaving a black abyss. Still, my brain registered it as an active threat to my well-being. I quietly tell the cousin behind me to run while staring at the spot, and then I bolt out of there. I don't really remember what happened after that. I remember telling the adults that it must have been a black bear standing on its hind legs against a tree or something, but I don't think I really thought that. What's really weird is that no one remembers anything about this but me. The whole thing feels like reality broke down for a few moments and then reoriented itself. That's really the whole story, but one thing I want to add is how strange of an energy there is around that forest. I went hunting there 3 separate times in middle school, and there is a stillness that encompasses that forest at times. Obviously the forests of Wisconsin get quiet when it gets cold, but this is different. It's like a void of noise, like that eerie quiet in every Skinwalker greentext, but for extended periods of time. Of the 3 times I've been hunting there, I saw 1 deer in the distance once. The other times the most I saw was a single squirrel or bird. And to be honest, something in there makes me feel different. The strangest thing I ever did, I did there in that forest, which quite frankly unsettles me deeply, now that I am relating it to my other ghost story. Maybe strange thoughts just enter a man when he walks in the woods. Both pics are taken by me, and are the woods in question if that's any indication of the vibe they give. I come by X a couple times a year to share my stories. I have never seen a ghost, but believe I lived in some sort of hotspot when I was in a more rural area of Lambertville, New Jersey when I was 19. I wanted to move out of my mom's place. My friend lived about 15 minutes away and offered to rent a room to me. I had known him since middle school, and we were good buddies, so I accepted. Over the years he had insisted that his woods house were haunted. For me, seeing is believing. I would entertain his stories, but inside I always thought how bogus he sounded. One day we are staying up late. The clock was nearing 10 p.m. My friend, we'll call him Jason, says we should check out the woods. It's fall at the time and had just rained. He said fall-winter is the perfect time to go out because that's when things seem to get more active. I kind of laugh it off and agree to go. I ain't afraid of no ghost. He grabs a good flashlight, puts fresh batteries in. He tells me the flashlights out there tend to act up. I take the flashlight from him to make sure it works well. I smack it around, turn it on and off over and over. Works totally fine. We throw on some warm clothes and head to his backyard. There is a small creek before you reach the actual woods. We hop across it and start making our way through. The ground was muddy from fresh rain. Jason starts leading the way deeper into the woods. I follow close behind him. We make our way and walk for a good 20 minutes deep into the woods. No houses or lights can be seen. Literal miles of woods fields in the middle of bumfuck New Jersey. Suddenly, the flashlight starts to act up and flickering. Jason, oh shit, it's happening. I laugh it off, thinking Jason is just trying to pull my leg. Me, can I take a look at the flashlight? Jason obliges and hands it to me. He was not fucking with me. Flashlight is starting to dim out on its own. No matter how much I try to fix it, I hand the flashlight back to Jason and say as long as we can still see a bit we could go out a bit further. Jason continues leading the way. Several minutes later, we hear a loud crash, like a branch snapping. We both freeze. Jason shines the light forward. I say softly, don't worry. It's just a falling branch or something. Again, another loud crash. Sounds like someone snapped a branch right in front of us. We see nothing, no movement, nothing fell, just a loud crash. Jason and I look at each other, and he freaks and starts running. Oh shit. Jason has the flashlight, and I have nothing. Jason is running back towards the house. I follow closely behind. All of the sudden I see the flashlight tumble to the ground. Jason screams something grabbed me. Help. Help. I run over and help Jason up. He grabs the flashlight. After running for a good 5 minutes straight, we finally make it back to his backyard. We are panting, sweating. We immediately go to his room and just flop onto his bed chair. When Jason had fallen, I assume he just lost his footing as we were going slightly uphill at the time. After we calm ourselves down, I see some sort of brown stain on Jason's pant leg above the ankle. I point it out to him. Fucking perfect. Handprint made by mud, larger than my hand, smaller than my friend's. Neither of us had mud on our hands. To this day, weirds me out to just think of it. In the Crow's Nest Pass of Alberta, there has been coal mining going on for as long as white people have lived there, so I'll just guess mid-1800s. That's not to say there haven't been other mines there though, or at least attempts at things like gold and shit. The Lost Lemon Mine is an urban legend in those parts. It's been circulating for as long as anyone can remember. The legend is that the mine was full to the brim of gold, maybe coal too, but the location was lost when the discoverer died or was murdered, depends on who tells you the story. There's some part about an Indian curse on the spot where it was found, but I can't remember how it goes. There's another interesting part of Crow's Nest Pass, unrelated to the lemon mine thing. In the early 1900s there was a town called Frank, situated at the foot of Turtle Mountain. In the base of the mountain there was a coal mine which was the reason for the town to exist. The interesting part starts with the local Indians, Blackfeet. Since forever, they refused to ever stop and make camp in the valley of Turtle Mountain. They perceived the mountain as evil and the surrounding land as a dangerous place to be. They would always travel through the valley as quickly as possible to avoid any extra moments there. In 1903, the north face of the mountain collapsed, sliding down to the valley and obliterating the town with massive limestone boulders. The official cause, if I remember correctly, was deemed instability caused by the mining operation. The miners themselves, bizarrely enough, were rescued from the shaft. This begs the question, were the Indians correct? Did they know something we didn't? They almost certainly didn't know about the pore structure of the mountain in geological terms. Today, Turtle Mountain has been surveyed extensively and is known to be unstable. At the top of the mountain, you can find school bus-sized cracks in the rock. There are shitloads of sensors installed as well. The sensors are there because the remainder of T Mountain is still unstable. And there are still towns nearby. Frank was rebuilt close to the rubble, and Hillcrest, another village, sits very near the bottom of the northeast corner of the mountain. Will the mountain claim more lives? On the subject of the valley itself, I have climbed the north side of it, opposite side to the slight area, and it does seem to have a strange feeling to it. I would not describe it as evil, but I did get the feeling I was not particularly welcome, as though I was irritating something by being there. I have adventured in other parts of the Crow's Nest Pass and never felt that way. Pic related, taken from close to where I was on the north side.